Hello and welcome back to the Miles Run Cutter podcast. Today I have Miss Lindsey Denmark. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Lindsey Denmark. I'm running for District 6 for the Duval County School Board.
Awesome. Let's get started. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. This nation was built on truth, and truth still matters. Welcome to the Miles Run Cutter podcast. Here, faith guides politics, and conviction leads to conversation. I'm Miles, and here we stand firm, speak boldly, and seek what's right, no matter the cost. Let's get started. So I'm going to start with the first question, which is, why are you running?
Yeah, so a couple different reasons, but primarily I feel that a lot of parents, a lot of families have lost trust in the district. We see our enrollment numbers have dropped quite a bit in the last several years. And I can say from a personal standpoint that I have lost trust in the district. So when my son was going into middle school, we've kind of done a little bit of everything. We did private school, we've done public school. The majority of our time we spent in public school, but when he was going into middle school, we just really had to pause and pray, and we decided that it would be best for him to put him in homeschool. And so we've been homeschooling, and the basis of that decision is just because we know and we've heard so many things that go on in our classroom. We do not want him intimidated. We don't want teachers telling him things that as parents we should be the ones telling him. Mm-hmm. And there are so many issues on the discipline side of things that I feel that we really need to focus in on. And so that's really the primary reason that I'm running. I want to make the public school district here in Duval better for every single family. I don't want families to continue to choose our neighboring counties for education. Mm-hmm. So many times families choose Clay or St. John's, and we have to compete. We've got to do better for every single student, every single family.
That's huge, because I think a lot of people do criticize because you do homeschool your children, but I think that this does give you a chance to be able to say, well, this is why you're doing it.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that we're able to have that discussion.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest issue, because I know you went into it, what do you think the biggest issue was and why you decided to homeschool, and what you can do on the school board to encourage more parents to maybe consider doing public school again?
Yeah, I think that truly the biggest issue is the discipline issue. The fact that we have students that are cussing our teachers out, cussing out other students, being physical with teachers and other students, and they're sent to the administrator for an hour for some counseling, and then they're sent back to the classroom, and the teacher has to deal with them again. So I think that the discipline, just standing on our code of conduct that we already have, and making sure that we're being, we're standing on that code of conduct, we're being, what's the word I'm looking for?
Consistent?
We're being consistent.
There you go.
With discipline. That's the most important part. So we have to be willing to really look at that and look at the issues that we're facing and deal with them.
So like with programs like Fortify Florida, you've looked into that?
Yeah.
Do you think that that's something you'd like to continue, or if there's other programs that we could bring to Duval? Because we know other districts have programs that fight.
Programs, yeah. I think that Fortify Florida is, based on my research, it's a good program, but I'm not sure that students are aware of it.
I agree.
So I think that we need to make sure that we raise awareness for that program. We make it easily accessible. There are QR codes everywhere. And I actually talked about this recently. I think that we need to have something set in place where at the beginning of the school year, the teachers actually have to sign off. They talk about the program, they make sure the students understand, and then maybe in the middle of the year, you send out a little text or an email to students and make sure they know that it's there.
Absolutely.
Do you understand how to use it? Because our students have to be able to anonymously report and feel that they're not just going to be ignored. So I think Fortify Florida is a great program. Are there others we could look at? Absolutely. But I think the one that we have is great. We just need to make sure that we raise awareness for it.
I completely agree, and I spoke at the school board. Matter of fact, I was going to ask you about the meta glasses today, but they're officially banned.
Yes, they're banned.
So we did it.
Yes, we did it. Good job.
So I'm very happy about that, but I also spoke afterwards because they were talking about the student code of conduct, which the meta glasses got banned in that they passed. So my school, what they'll do is at the beginning of the year, they'll sit everyone down in the auditorium, and they'll go through the entire student code of conduct, making sure everyone knows what's in it.
Yeah.
Do you think that should be something mandatory at all the schools?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And honestly, I think that we need to involve our parents even more, making sure that they understand what's in the student code of conduct, because we need to hold parents accountable for their students' actions. We need to make sure that parents understand what's going on in the classroom. If there's ever an issue, they need to know right away. And yes, the student code of conduct needs to be relayed to them. They need to understand all of it and what's expected of their student. I'm really glad to hear that, because it is important. You look at our schools where there's just this insane rise of violence and chaos in the schools, and it's getting ridiculous. And I'm happy to go to a school that is very well rounded. We haven't had a fight in years. Wow.
But that's not the reality for the rest of the district. So I think it's very, very commendable that that's something that you prioritize.
Absolutely.
Now, for cheating, you mentioned discipline. For cheating, what do you think we could try and push to avoid that? With the rise of AI, you know that is becoming more and more common.
Yeah. I've talked about this before. I think there's a place for AI. There's a place for using it for research. But how do we draw the line between research and cheating?
Absolutely.
And so I think we need to definitely look at how, if a student is, if there's keywords that we can find that we can track through AI. I know there are. I know there are certain things that make AI stand out. I think that there's going to have to be some kind of program process that we bring in that looks for those things, and they can identify those things. So I think in this brand new world that we're in AI, we have to be able to combat that, because if not, our students aren't learning. They're just using AI to be their brain, and we can't allow that to happen, because we got to get them ready to go into the workforce and be prepared. So yes, to your point, we've got to figure out what to do, and I think that the biggest thing is to use technology to fight technology, right? So
it's a good perspective.
So we have to be able to scan those documents and see where the keywords are and figure out if AI is being used or not.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad to hear that. And I mean, you mentioned about students going into the workforce.
Yeah.
So with the career and technical education, what is your stance on that? And if you are for, what programs do you think do really good in our schools? And if you're against, what do you think is the issue with them in particular?
So I think we have to continue to expand career technical. The board has done an incredible job over the last several years expanding. So I think that Charlotte Joyce talks about when she came on for her first term, they had somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 programs available, and now they're in the 70s. That's a huge jump. I think that we can continue to do more to raise awareness to parents and let them know what programs are available at what schools. So have a career technical roadmap to see what programs each student would like to do. I'm kind of in favor, I think, of an actual VOTEC center, having somewhere where students can go after school in the evenings and have companies come in and fill in that technical center. And I know that we have companies, I've talked to them, that would love to do that and send employees over and make sure that our students are prepared and have everything they need. Because what we find is, of course, we have the students that are dual enrolled, and so they can do night classes at FSCJ. But if they can't get through that dual enrollment testing and they can't get dual enrolled, they could do the VOTEC Center even still. So
Absolutely.
I think it would be a good option if we could get the funding together for it. And there are grant funds for that. And I know that because I have a grant consulting background. So
that's awesome.
So we could definitely get funding to build the center and get the machinery and everything there. So it's just an interesting thought that maybe we should consider.
Absolutely. And on top of that, when it comes to funding, the $1 million referendum. I wanted to ask what your opinion is on that, and then we'll continue to dive into that. Yeah,
so I've been very open about that. I would never, ever want to take money from our teachers. Our teachers are heroes, and they deserve to be paid very competitively. I do not believe that we need to go back to the taxpayers for a referendum. I also don't think we need to hold that over our teachers' heads every 4 years. I think we need to find it in our budget. And I think since our budget is larger than the city of Jacksonville's budget, the money is there. So one of my top priorities is to find that money, do a forensic audit, find the money and pay our teachers out of the budget, not continue to go back to the taxpayers. So to answer your question, if I were in the position to vote on this and put it on the ballot, I don't think I would be in favor of putting it on the ballot in November. I know that we're in this situation where we have to get it passed, we got to pay our teachers, but moving forward, I want to do a forensic audit. I want to pay them out of the budget, and I don't want to ask the taxpayers to pay more money.
Absolutely. And just earlier today, there was a huge announcement. I think it was the FBI went and captured the largest fraudster, most wanted fraudster, and not in the United States, but they found him in another country. How do you think we're going to be able to fight fraud? Because we know it's everywhere, and wasteful spending, and on top of that. And like you said, you want to support the teachers by making sure they're getting the pay that they deserve. How do you think on the school board you'd be able to do that?
Yeah, I think that we need to take a really close look at our contracts. Historically, there have been situations where we've had board members get kickbacks for different curriculum, different things that we've contracted for. And we have to make sure that that does not happen. So I think as a board, you have to come together and be willing to take a really hard look at all of our contracts, look at everything that we're doing, all of our financials really closely. I think if everyone's committed to that, to fighting fraud, that we're gonna get it done. But yes, you're right. We have to take a hard stance against it and make sure that everything is transparent, open, and honest, and we're doing our best to fight it.
Awesome. So with transparency, you want to make sure that you're getting that to the students, but not only the students, the teachers and the parents. So we have the system of like communicating with parents, like the schools. They'll have various different apps that are hard to navigate. I've seen myself, they're very hard to navigate. When Teams first came out, it made no sense to anybody. Do you think that we should go back to just using email, or do you think that we should all just as a district stick to one standard?
I think that we should stick to one standard, but I think, again, kind of going back to Fortify Florida, we need to make sure that parents understand what that standard is and know how to use it. Also, what's the harm in doing, there are companies that will do mass text announcements,
Some of the schools do that.
Yeah, so I think that text messaging is just the easiest, most obvious answer. Now, if it's a sensitive issue that doesn't need to go out through text and it needs to be more, closely relayed, then we should use the standard that's there, the apps that are there to be able to transfer the information. But yeah, we got to make sure everybody knows how to use it.
Awesome. I'm very glad to hear that, because I know, like, looking at my mom, every time she gets a call from the school and then she's like, oh, you got to go submit this on an app and you got to do this. It's completely unnecessary. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Is there any particular program that you think stands out the most? Because I know you mentioned Fortify Florida being a really good program, and you mentioned that maybe there's some other programs that we could look into. But specifically, do you think that there's any, like you mentioned the text, but for the private communication, like I use Teams with some of my teachers to talk back and forth. Of course, the county's able to look in and see what's going on there, so there's not anything inappropriate going on. Do you think that we should do something like that? Or maybe, I just want to hear what your stance is.
Yeah, I would have to research it some more to see what programs are available and what would be the best fit for us. Talking specifically about transparency, I think that it's really important that we have keyword processing in all of our systems that we use for the district. So if there are communications back and forth between teachers and students that may not be appropriate, that we're catching that, and it's keyword processing can do that. And so there's certain keywords we need to put and watch and keep an eye on all of that. So we have to make sure that transparency is paramount.
Absolutely.
And that we're making sure that we're keeping everyone safe.
I'm glad that you find transparency very important. And I wanted to ask about parents going into the classrooms. What do you think the circumstances where that should be acceptable, or if you're against it at all? Like, what is your stance on that?
I think parents should be able to go in the classroom at any time. How we started out today is a good segue into this, trust. Parents have to be able to trust the district. They have to be able to trust the teachers. And I think that obviously we have to keep everything in order. So,
Totally.
We don't need parents just popping into the classroom. But if there's a time when they wanted to schedule a time to come into the classroom and let everyone know that they're coming, they should be able to do that at any time that they want. Mm-hmm. So I think that would go a long way in building trust back between our families and the district. Just to know that they can go in, they can see the curriculum that their students have, that they're learning, and hear the teachers and understand how they're being taught. I think that's very important.
Awesome. I appreciate that you bring that up because you never know what's going on inside the classroom.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't have the cameras in there. It's considered private.
Right.
And I think that's always a topic to be debated. Should there be cameras in the classroom or not? And I think it's very fun to debate personally.
Yeah.
But I wanted to also ask about, because you mentioned this at one of the forums, should sex education be an opt-in or opt-out program?
Yeah. I would say I would prefer an opt-in. Parents sometimes just forget to turn things in, and if they forget to opt out, that could be really devastating for a family if they don't want their student to learn a particular thing.
Absolutely.
So I think opting in is the smartest route, and I think that's what I would support.
Absolutely. And you think there's other programs that we have in our schools that you think that we should have an opt-in or opt-out program like that?
I'm sure there are. Specifically off the top of my head, I can't think of any, but the sex ed thing is just such a big milestone for a child.
Absolutely.
And all families teach it differently at different times in the child's life. So I don't think it's never the school, it's never the government's place to educate a child on sex. And so I think we have to allow opting in to make sure that a parent's voice is being heard and they make that decision, not the school.
I mean, we look at our government and what they think about sex, so it's like you don't want the government talking about that. So I'm glad that you hold that stance.
Yeah.
Now, the clubs, right, after school programs, we have, on one side you have Turning Point, on the other you have gay and lesbian unity. I don't know what they call it now, but anyways, those clubs are falling apart. But what is really rising is Turning Point USA.
Yeah.
So I have one of the chapters of the school I attend, and I want to know what is your stance on those, but as well as we'll look at the LGBTQ clubs as well. Yeah,
I'm so proud of Turning Point, and I think that aside from the Christian beliefs, just the goodness and the values that you learn through Turning Point, the character traits that Charlie Kirk was so strong in. And so I think that aside from Christianity, just that character, the learning to have character, learning to have virtue is so important. So I 100% support Turning Point in every way, shape, and form. And I think that we should get as many kids in there as we can. Awesome. It's very, very important.
I think that's awesome. And I mean, we have other clubs like Youth in Politics, for example. I'm conservative caucus leader at my school, and I think we do a great job with it. And it really gets people involved, and it just helps people find, okay, what do I agree with, what do I disagree with? Because conversation is so important.
It is so important.
And I'm glad we're bringing it back into the schools.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that it prepares students for, if you're able to have a conversation, then you're able to go do a job interview.
Yep.
You're able to go into the workforce and be a good employee. So I think conversation is not just for debate, obviously, it's for life. So learning how to converse with other people and not get frustrated when you don't agree, that's so huge. It's the
foundation of our country.
It absolutely is. That's right.
So I think that's amazing. And like I said about the foundation of our country being founded on conversation, people coming together with differing views and saying, okay, where's our middle ground?
That's right.
How do we teach American history and make sure it's not being skewed? Because I've seen, going through school, you get taught about two things: Black history and Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Other than that, you have to take them as electives.
Right.
Why aren't we teaching American history?
Yeah. We need to teach the Constitution. We need to teach American history, how it happened. And I think that one of my priorities is to look at our curriculum and see what we're actually passing. So obviously, those are state-passed curriculums, but we have lobbyists that can go lobby those things. And
Absolutely.
So we have to be willing, I think, as a board to stand up and stand on what we believe to be true. And if we're not teaching an accurate depiction of American history, then let's change that. Let's let's get to where we need to be, because let's be honest, a lot of our kids are graduating and they cannot tell us anything about the Constitution. They cannot tell us anything. Yeah, it is disappointing. And so we have to do a better job at that for sure.
I think that's great. And I want to look at, like you said, being able to find people who are able to advocate and work to make policy that teaches our American history, make sure we're going in and looking at the curriculum. With your background in real estate, how do you think that background in particular is going to help you on the school board?
Yeah, so I just believe that real estate and municipal grant writing together are going to help in negotiations and just reviewing contracts. Both of those things that I've done in my past. I'm still doing real estate, but contracts and negotiation are going to be a huge piece in moving forward with the district in the next several years. We have a lot of moving parts, and so I think that it's really important to have someone with that background. I 100% agree that we have to have a teacher's perspective on the board. We have to have educators there, but I do not think it should be a board full of educators. I think any good, responsible board for any organization is a diverse board. So I think that you have to have a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of backgrounds. I think about Mayo Clinic. So my husband works for Mayo Clinic. Their board, their hospital board, is made up of, I don't remember exactly how many people, but it's a very wide array of different backgrounds. You have, I think, a pro golfer, you have a restaurant owner, and just lots of different, not just all medical doctors. And the reason for that is because there's a lot of different things that company, Mayo Clinic, handles. Totally. There's a lot of different aspects that Duval County Public Schools handle. So you have to be able to have differing opinions, different backgrounds, and have experience in different areas so that you can effectively govern. I think that's so important.
I like that. I want to ask specifically, and you answered it a little bit, but what is something that you think is the most direct impact that your experience gives you that you'd be able to bring to the board? Because you mentioned the pro golfer or someone with a differing perspective being on there, making sure that you have a diverse set of ideas. What is, at least maybe just a policy that you think you really are able to nail really well with your experience?
I think that one thing that I will say that I'm really honing in on is our contracts. So we have contracts, we're contracting a lot of things out, and we're spending a lot of money on those contracts. So transportation and our maintenance services, lots of different things that we're contracting out. We need to be able to bring some of those in-house if we can. So I think that looking at those contracts and seeing if we can go out and get competitive bids for those things will be really beneficial to the district. So that's something that I've done a lot of in the past. When I worked for a grant consultant, that was my primary job, is to solicit bids for local government, get competitive bids, and make sure they're what they need to be and they are competitive, and procure the right company for that. So I think that if I'm answering you directly, I think that just the negotiations piece and the contracting is going to be a huge asset, I would hope, for the district that
Absolutely.
I could help with.
I'm glad to hear that. And I think it's important that we're not getting scammed out with some of the contracts that we have. We look at the city and there's some things like, what in the world? Why are we paying for this? And I'm glad that there's that perspective, and the diverse perspective on the board is very, very important.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. I agree.
Awesome. So I want to switch, and I want to talk about how are you going to work directly with the principals within your district?
So I think that we need to have a respectful relationship with our principals, but we also need to allow them to govern their schools. So we don't need to be overbearing with our principals. And obviously, remember, as a board member, we are not in charge of the principals. That is the superintendent's job. So giving them the support that they need when they need it, absolutely, I'm there. I want to be a very hands-on board member, but I also want to make sure that we have people. I know that we have people in those positions that are doing what they need to do, and let them do it.
Absolutely. I think that's huge. I mean, I read a book recently. It's called Good to Great. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
You got to read this book. I recommend this to anybody watching. This is an amazing book. It's about business, right? Where you have a business and you want, and a big section of it was talking about this, you want to make sure that the people that you need for the job are in the right seats at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's huge, and being able to find what principals need to go where, what they need, what the resources that they need, but they're also able to cover themselves.
Right.
You can't just watch over everybody.
That's right.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So in addition to that, the class sizes. What do you think about the class sizes in our district?
Yeah, so obviously parents, that's another huge reason that parents are pulling their kids. They want smaller class sizes. So I think it's important that we keep classes to, that 18 and below number. When we start getting above the 18 number, it's really hard for a teacher to keep the classroom together, to make sure that they're providing the instruction per student that we need to be doing. So I'm just of the opinion that if we can keep classes 18 and below, that would be fantastic. But obviously we have to be real too, and we have to understand that we only have a certain number of teachers. We only have, we have a certain number of students, so we have to make it work. Yeah. But I think ideally for me, 18 and less, and I think for a lot of parents, that's how they would feel. 18 and less is a good class size.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break here and we'll come right back.
All right.
Awesome. Aloha. Welcome to Jacksonville's only authentic Hawaiian coffee and waffle cafe.
Here at Aloha, we get our coffee beans flown straight from the island of Hawaii. They are flown fresh overnight for your enjoyment here in Jacksonville, Florida. Our batter here at Aloha is handcrafted with our famous family recipe. It took 8 long months to perfect this recipe, and to top off those unique waffles, we get our fruit delivered daily. So whether you're craving a savory, mouth-watering chicken and waffles, or a sweet island-inspired dessert, waffle topped with fresh fruit and ice cream, we definitely have you covered. When you dine with us here at Aloha, you can feel good knowing that you're eating real ingredients, you're drinking quality coffee, and you're supporting a local family business right here in Jacksonville, Florida.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
All right. I'd like to continue by asking, how do you think we can attract more teachers to the district?
Yeah, so I want to go back to what we talked about a little earlier, and that's discipline. I think that aside from pay, we have to look at working conditions, and so many teachers have left our district. I've been told over and over and over because of conditions in the classroom. And so if we don't have administrators that are willing to support the teachers and provide the discipline that's needed for those students that are causing issues time after time, then our teachers are going to get worn down. They're going to leave. They're going to feel unsupported. Totally. So I think that if we can better our working conditions by dealing with discipline better, our teachers are going to feel more comfortable to be in the district. So I think that we can attract them by doing just that, just creating a better working condition.
That's good, and I'm glad that you're bringing that up because all of these teachers are coming here, and I've seen teachers get beat up, yelled at, and everything. It's ridiculous. There needs to be punishments for that, and not just, go sit in ISSP, or you got another referral, you got 200 of them, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. So I think that there absolutely needs to be more punishment, making sure that what's happening isn't acceptable and should not be going on in our schools.
Yeah, and there needs to be a mutual respect there, right? So, and we're not just talking about physical altercations. We're talking about like vulgar language in the classroom. Yep. I mean, we need to make that a priority and stick to it. Like, let's be consistent with that, because are you going to talk to your parents like that at home? I mean, I don't know, maybe they do, but we're not going to talk to our teachers like that. We're not going to treat them that way.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to stand on that. I mean, we have got to take a strong stance, and it's going to be hard because I think so many of us have lost that, I don't know, we're like desensitized almost. And we just, we feel like we can just say whatever we want, whenever we want.
Of course.
And I think we need to take a step back and really look at this. We need to respect, kids need to respect their elders, and we need to respect our teachers that are working so hard, and our administrators, the whole staff.
Absolutely.
There needs to be respect there.
I'm glad that that's being built up in the schools, because respect for our teachers is on a huge decline, and I'm glad that that's a priority. Yeah. For the special education schools, sometimes you'll have a student who may have like anger issues or something. They can't quite control how they react to some things. And I know a teacher, she had and no longer does, because of after I think 4 years of her breaking her leg or breaking a bone every single year, being attacked by students, only being able to protect herself with a riot shield, a padded riot shield, like pillows on it.
Yeah.
how do we protect those teachers and parents and principals and everybody?
That's so hard. I actually have one of my students in my church program that went through a similar situation, and they just he was high functioning autistic and just couldn't control his emotions. And so we have students that are like that, and they struggle with that. I think that we maybe need to look at a middle of the road campus, so not necessarily a disciplinary campus where students are going when they have serious discipline issues, but those students that just can't control themselves or sit in general population, education, that there's a middle of the road place for them where they can learn on their, where they're comfortable, and have educators there that are equipped to deal with that. So I think that that's something that, for me, that I would want to look at as a board member and see if there's an option for that. We don't have anything like that right now that I'm aware of. So if that was an opportunity, a possibility, I think it would be a good one for those types of learners.
Absolutely. I'm glad that that's one of the priorities. I went to a school at, Grasp Academy. Are you familiar? It's a school for students with dyslexia.
Yes.
And I went there, and I had some issues with it, but I think that the program itself is such an amazing idea. And of course, it's not a bunch of students who have anger issues. It's students with learning disabilities. Sure. Would that be a program you'd be interested in expanding?
Absolutely, yes. We have a lot of students that are undiagnosed dyslexic, I think.
Oh, a ton.
I actually have good friends that have children that are dyslexic and didn't know they were dyslexic until they were in 6th or 7th grade. Now, can you imagine the type of learning that, how that sets you back?
Oh, I know. I lived it.
Okay, so how old, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you got diagnosed?
I was maybe in 4th or 5th grade.
Okay, well, even
I
still.
failed kindergarten. I was supposed to be homeschooled during 1st grade. Don't come after me, Tony Ricardo. But I just stayed home the whole year.
Yeah.
And then it was a whole thing. Finally, I got diagnosed, and they gave me an IEP, and I was able to go to Grasp. Yeah,
and it's so hard to get caught up, especially if you're staying in general education, general population. If you have a school like Grasp, then they can get you caught up. But if you don't have that opportunity, then those children really struggle. So yes, let's expand it. Let's make it available to anybody that needs it.
That's amazing. So of course I got to go there because of school choice.
Yep.
It wasn't in I wasn't zoned for that school. What is your stance on not only school choice, but charter schools as well? Yeah.
So it's no secret I'm a big proponent of school choice. I believe that a parent knows best where their student is going to thrive. And that's any choice. So they know best, and not the government. The government doesn't need to tell us where to put our kids and how to educate our children. As far as charter schools go, I'm also a proponent of that as part of choice. I think that charter schools allow for competition, and competition is a good thing when it comes to public schools. So we've seen a lot of huge gains in our public school system in the last 6 to 8 years. And so here in Duval County, the last 2 school years we've had an A rating, and that's a huge deal. So I think, obviously I can't say that that's charter schools that's causing that reaction, but I will say that I've seen the competition. It makes things better. It brings in good things. So I think that the competition is a good thing, and I'm always going to stand with charter schools. Yeah.
I'm glad. Do you think, or can you mention in your own district some charter schools that you would support or you think of doing a really good job here? Because I'm not very familiar with this side of town. A lot of people watching probably don't live on this side of town. So I'd be interested in hearing if there is of course there is charter schools over here, but what do you think are programs that are doing really good over here?
Yeah, so specifically, and it's not in my district, but I do want to mention Jack's Classical. Okay. I was able to tour Jack's Classical recently, and amazing. I was blown away. I just feel that the classical model is such an interesting model, and I think that it would benefit so many students to go back to that model. I have campaigned on this, and I think it's so important to teach character and virtue in all of our curriculum from an early age, from kindergarten all the way up. In every subject. So I think that classical model, learning actual phonics, is so important. So, and they're doing amazing work there. Those students are killing it. So I'm very interested in that, and I love watching their gains that they're making. And I think that we should take note as a district, those charter schools that are making those types of gains. So, specifically them.
I mean, you mentioned like the classical schools and such. I spoke with Donovan. I did an interview with him, and he brought up cursive writing. I didn't think about this. All of our founding documents are written in cursive.
Right, yeah.
That's mind-blowing.
Right.
So I want to know, is that something you'd advocate to push for more in our curriculum?
Oh my goodness, of course. So as a realtor for many years, at least the last 5 to 6 years, we have young people coming in to buy their first house, and we get to the closing table, and guess what? They can't sign their name in cursive on their closing statement. They just write it out. And so that's always been our title folks and the lenders. It's so interesting to see, like, they don't know how to sign their name.
Yeah.
And so, I'm glad to see that we're bringing it back. Cursive is coming back. We're making a comeback. So
absolutely,
we need to make sure that our kids know how to sign their names. Yes.
That's awesome. So do you think that there's any other, because you mentioned phonics, anything other classical that you want to bring back that you think you could do while you're on the board?
Goodness. I think, like I mentioned, the character and the virtue, phonics, civics. They have a huge focus on civics. Civics is a big one. I think we talked about it a little earlier, but just learning American history the way that it happened. I think that our kids need to know government better. They need to understand government better, and so they do a really good job with civics. And I think that that's something that we can intertwine even more into our public school system.
Out at Mayport, I really liked our civics program. I think I was the second highest scorer in the school.
That's amazing.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And I had such an amazing teacher. I have no idea where she is now. She's not at the school, because I visited. I'm like, man, I want to see this lady. And she wasn't there. But I think civics is so important that we're teaching it. And not just in middle school, but continuing and being like, in our class, just implementing, okay, this is how this applies to our government.
Yeah.
I think that's huge, and I think it's really important that you're a proponent of that.
Yeah, we got to be able to have our kids ready to lead this country, at some point in their life, because they're the ones that are going to be leading it in just a few years. So,
Yeah, hopefully I'll be leading it very soon.
That's right,
and I'm
you
gonna
will
bring
be.
a bunch of people with me.
You will be.
I want to talk about literacy and the FAST test scores. How can we improve those?
So I've done a lot of research on this, and to your point, so only about 50% of our students are reading on grade level. It is that statistic is just mind-boggling to me. I don't think we need to recreate the wheel, though. I think we need to look at other districts and what they're doing and mimic that. So in research, I found that Mississippi has done an incredible work with their reading gains. And so I think looking at Mississippi's model and Louisiana's model, they've done some really awesome things by going back to phonics. And also early literacy. So we're working on, they're working on like age 3 all the way up to kindergarten. So working with parents to create a program prior to kindergarten is a huge deal.
Yeah.
And they're seeing incredible gains from that. So then also just being able to identify issues early on, not waiting until you're in 3rd grade to realize that the student cannot read. And like we talked about dyslexia, being able to identify those issues early on, kindergarten, 1st grade, so that we can combat those problems and get everybody on the right track. So I think that it's going to take a lot of different angles to increase our scores. And we have great organizations like Read USA that are doing tutoring after school. So I think that if you bring everything together, it's going to take a lot of different angles to get to where we need to be. But if you do that and you get everybody on the same page and we're working as a team, then we're all going to be much more successful and we're going to see those scores go up.
I'm glad to hear it's absolutely achievable.
Yeah, it is.
And you mentioned the after-school programs. I run a peer-on-peer tutoring organization called Best EDU.
Okay.
And it brings together tutors and students so they're able to find someone their age who's able to work with them. So I find after-school tutoring to be very important. How do you think as the district we can continue to push that? Because I think it's just so helpful.
Yeah, I think just making sure that parents are aware of the tutoring programs that are available, and just that knowledge of what is available, what is accessible to them is so important. So just getting that information out and not waiting, not letting there be any, students having any like fear of coming to a teacher and asking for help, or coming to a tutor and asking for help. I also think you're talking about peer-to-peer, right? Tutoring. That is also a huge deal, because a student may not want to have an adult tutor them. They may feel like that's overwhelming or it's embarrassing.
Oh, it's just another class period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about peer-to-peer tutoring, that's going to go over, I feel like, much better. So a student's going to be able to feel a lot more comfortable with another student to tutor. And so I think that's a great thing. We need to definitely push that.
Awesome. I'm so glad that we're working on that. So we're going to take our last and final stop here, and then we'll be right back.
Alrighty.
Awesome. Thank you so much to Diamond D Ranch for letting us use their property for this interview. Best EDU Season 3 is here. This season will bring new faces, new courses, and new videos. This year, I'm introducing Best EDU Tutors.
All right.
All right, we're back.
Here we are.
Here we are. I want to ask, where do you see Duval in 20 years?
In 20 years, I would hope that we are a district that our families can trust, that we are the primary source of education, and that we are not a district that is indoctrinating children, but we're just educating children, teaching them to critically think for themselves, and we're focused on just education and student achievement instead of any other political or ideological issues. So I think in 20 years, I'd want to see us in a better financial position, and paying our teachers out of our budget, but just a great space where parents, families can trust the teachers, the staff, and the district as a whole. I think if I have to go back to that trust piece. If our families can trust the district and know that they can send their child to school and they're going to be safe, they don't have to worry about other kids beating them up or having fights or whatever, and they're going to learn the basics, what they need to learn, then we're going to be in a really good place. So I'm hoping that in the next 20 years, we're going to have better trust, we're going to be able to spend smarter, and we're just going to be in a really good place, good position to keep continuing on with public education. That's a great view, and I'm so happy to hear that. And I hope one day I'm going to be able to have my kids in this district and it be just like that. That's right. Such an just beautiful perspective to think about. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So I want to know, what has your faith played a role in your decision to run for office? It is the primary decision-making point. So I never planned to be in politics, never wanted to be in politics. And last year, around August, I know you probably know this about me, but I'm actually, I'm in ministry. I've been in ministry for my entire adult life. And even before, I was actually called into the ministry. I felt called when I was 14 years old. So I've always done music ministry. I went into children's ministry about 12 years ago. And that's had a huge impact on my life, the way I view families, just wanting to be able to help as much as I can. And so for the last 12 years, I've really, I've done ministry, I've done real estate, and we've stayed really busy. My husband and I are on staff at a church. And so I really just thought that would be what I would do for the rest of my life. And so last August, I just kind of felt a tugging on my heart that there was something else that I was supposed to be doing. I wore all these hats and I was always so busy, but the Lord just was really impressing on me that there was something more. And so we started praying about it, and I came to know Charlotte Joyce. I had never met Charlotte before. And in meeting her, we had a conversation about the possibility of me running for the seat. Mm-hmm. And so I really had to pray about that, because when we first discussed it, I did not feel, I just didn't feel like that was what the Lord was calling me to. And so I just really, really prayed about that and put it in perspective. And I had to look back on all the things that God has done in my life thus far. So the planning perspective from the grant work that I've done, the budgeting stuff, the policy stuff, the real estate side of things, where, we talked about the negotiations and contracts and just being able to be a voice there for the business side.
Yeah.
But then the ministry piece is such a huge thing, because I've watched so many students walk through some really tough times, specifically in our public schools. And so the Lord just really started to show me that that He has been planning this for me for many, many, many years. And so in December of last year, I really got a piece about it, that this is where He has me, this is what He wants me to do. And I know, as a Christian, when you're called to do something, there's no denying that. So you have to be obedient. You have to walk through that call. And so I knew that if I wasn't obedient to the Lord and what He was asking me to do, I was going to be miserable, and I knew I had to do it. So just that pull of my faith and knowing that this is where He has me for this time, that's really what led me to start thinking about running. And then just being able to look back and seeing all the things, how He's prepared me for it, has been incredible. Of course, as we talked about earlier, with Holden and me not having that comfort of putting in public school when he went into middle school, I want our public schools to be amazing and highly competitive and great for every single family.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, the faith piece is the primary piece for me. That's what really guides every decision I make. It's what guides my life as a Christian. And so I'm just thankful for that side of things, and for the service that I've been able to do all these years, the families that I've been able to work with, and for a Lord that allows me to do it.
I think that's the most important perspective, is to say, this is His will, I'm doing it for Him. I'm so glad to hear that.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So with that, do you believe schools should teach values like honesty, integrity, and respect? If so, how can they do that without promoting a particular religion?
I absolutely believe we should be teaching that. And I think that you can teach those values without promoting any religion at all. I think we should all, as humans, be good, respectful citizens. And I think that even though we believe in Christianity and we believe, the goodness and character traits that we should have as Christians and having that fruit, right? I believe we can teach those same character traits to children and to young people. And you can do that through curriculum and just a continuous flow of all of those things. So
Absolutely.
Through every subject, teaching them to be good stewards, good citizens, faithful people that are good friends and respectful. And so I think all of that is very, very important. And I think that could change the culture of our school system. I think it could change the culture of our city, because it could radically change our discipline issues if we really stepped in and did that. So if we have kids that understand who they are and are good citizens, good students, and respectful, can change everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's one Bible verse that you think guides your leadership?
I think the verse that says, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. I think so many times we get bogged down in life and we forget that He is the Lord over all of it, and He's the one that can give us strength. So I think for me, that's going to be, it's always been my favorite, but especially in these last several months of campaigning, is something that I've just held to, because I believe that He can do all things, and He does all things well.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Miles. Oh my goodness, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys for watching.